Dr Lynette Bettio. I'm a senior climatologist at the Australian Bureau of Meteorology.
And what are we expecting to occur this spring?
The Bureau has just released its spring seasonal outlook. So looking at rainfall, what we might expect for rainfall in the coming season, much of the eastern half of Australia, we have increased chances of above average rainfall. Then looking at Western Tasmania, there's increased chances of drier than average conditions, and also parts of Australia such as southwest Western Australia also have increased chances of drier than average conditions.
What is driving this outlook?
What's driving this outlook is a negative Indian Ocean Dipole. That's usually associated with wetter than average conditions over Australia, and we also see a developing La Niña event. So La Niña events, as we've seen in recent years, is also associated with wetter than average conditions over Australia.
What can you tell us about temperatures?
Well, looking at temperatures, there's increased chances of above average nighttime temperatures over much of Australia. For days, we might see cooler days where we have increased rainfall, so across New South Wales, southern Queensland into South Australia, but warmer days are expected in the far north of the country and parts of the southeast. We encourage communities to keep an eye on the current forecast and warnings on the Bureau website and app.
What can New South Wales expect this spring?
New South Wales can expect wetter than average conditions this spring. We see increased chances of wetter than average or above average rainfall across much of the state. There's also increased chances of unusually high rainfall, so rainfall in the top 20%.
And what about temperatures for New South Wales?
So for temperatures, we can expect cooler days across New South Wales, increased chances of cooler days across the state. So with that increase in rainfall, we're also looking at increased chances of cooler daytime temperatures across New South Wales. We do see an increased chance of warmer nights across New South Wales.
And what can Queensland expect?
Queensland can expect above average rainfall across the state, so we see increased chances of above average rainfall across much of the state. And we also do see increased chances of unusually high rainfall, so rainfall in the top 20% of all springs on record.
And what about Queensland's temperature?
For temperatures, we see an increased chance of cooler than average temperatures in the southern part of the state for daytime temperatures. Do see some increased chances of above average temperatures for northern parts of the state, but generally for nighttime temperatures we see an increased chance of above average nighttime temperatures.
And what can Victoria expect this spring?
Victoria has an increased chance of above average rainfall across much of the state. We see those increased chances of wetter than average conditions across much of Victoria.
And what about Victoria's temperatures?
For temperatures, especially across the southern part of the state, we do see an increased chance of above average daytime temperatures across southern parts of Victoria. For nighttime temperatures, we see an increased chance of above average nighttime temperatures across Victoria.
What can South Australia expect?
South Australia can expect above average rainfall across much of the eastern part of the state. So we see increased chances of above average rainfall across eastern parts of South Australia.
And what about temperatures?
We can expect cooler daytime temperatures, especially in the north of the state, and there's increased chance of above average nighttime temperatures across parts of the state.
And what can Western Australia expect this spring?
For Western Australia, across much of the state, we don't see a large swing towards above or below average rainfall, but in the southwest corner of the state, we do see increased chances of below average rainfall.
And what about temperatures for WA?
For temperatures, we do see an increased chance of above average daytime temperatures for those northern parts, along the west coast there and some southern parts. For nighttime temperatures, across large parts of the state there is an increased chance of above average nighttime temperatures.
What can Tasmania expect this spring?
Well, there's a real contrast between the two halves of Tasmania. Across eastern Tasmania, there's above average rainfall expected, but across the west of the state there's increased chances of below average rainfall for the coming spring.
And what about temperatures?
For temperatures, both daytime and nighttime temperatures are expected to be above average across the state.
What can the Northern Territory expect this spring?
Well, looking at the Northern Territory, there's an increased chance of wetter than average conditions across the top end this spring. Across northern parts of the Northern Territory, there's an increased chance of warmer than average daytime temperatures and also an increased chance of warmer than average nighttime temperatures.